For years, Barron Trump had been little more than a faint shadow, quiet, still, and almost invisible. Yet in a single breathtaking moment, everything changed. Without uttering a single word, the youngest Trump sent shockwaves rippling through the political world. Donald and Melania Trump, long known for fiercely guarding their privacy and carefully controlling their public image, were left stunned, even moved to tears, by the transformation of their son. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is just the beginning of the untold truths behind the Trump family. What had happened to Barron? Why now? And what could this sudden emergence mean for the future of the Trump dynasty? Today we pull back the curtain to reveal the quiet storm brewing behind the scenes, and why Barron Trump might be the most unpredictable force this family has ever produced. This was the moment that made an entire nation pause. On January 20th, 2020, as cameras from every corner of the globe zeroed in on the unprecedented return of Donald Trump to the presidency, something entirely unexpected stole the spotlight. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, Barron Trump stepped into the public glare, not as a silent background figure, but as a young man radiating calm authority, commanding the moment without uttering a single phrase. He did not speak. He did not wave a flag. He did not force a smile. He simply stood beside his father. And yet, somehow it was Barron, not Donald, who captivated the crowd. Within minutes, social media erupted. Analysts scrambled to interpret what they had just witnessed. Some political commentators hailed it as the unofficial debut of the next Trump era, while others dubbed him the silent prince of Trumpism. One viral tweet captured it flawlessly. This is no longer the boy from 2017. This is a presence. Yet the transformation went far beyond appearances. Towering at an astonishing 6'9", 205, Barron's stature was impossible to ignore. Dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, polished leather shoes catching the light, and hair slicked neatly back, he radiated a quiet, commanding authority that words could never fully convey. The awkward, hesitant teen once trailing behind his parents was gone. In his place stood a young man who seemed to carry an untold story in his posture alone. But it wasn't just his towering height, polished style, or composed demeanor that seized the world's attention. It was his conduct. He stood there with the poised assurance of someone who knew exactly where he was and precisely what that moment meant. He made no effort to charm the crowd, and yet, paradoxically, that very detachment made him all the more magnetic. Then came a gesture that stunned even his own parents. As Donald Trump turned to address the roaring crowd, Barron lifted one hand to his ear, leaned slightly forward, silently beckoning them to cheer louder. The move was playful, unexpected, and instantly iconic. From anyone else, it might have seemed cocky, but with Barron, it felt effortless, as though he had been quietly waiting for this very moment all his life. Donald, ever the showman, chuckled and joked about having to admire his son. Yet to those watching closely, there was something deeper in his expression, something that looked almost humble. In that moment, it was no longer just the return of a president. It was the arrival of a new kind of power, and it belonged to Barron Trump. Beside him, draped in her signature pale blue coat, Melania radiated the poised elegance that had long defined her public image. Yet in that very instant, as Barron stood tall and unshaken at his father's side, a fleeting crack, so subtle it could be missed, appeared in her otherwise impenetrable composure. She dabbed the corner of her eye ever so slightly. In a world where public restraint is an art form, it was a rare, deeply human slip. For the first time, it wasn't about politics. It was about a mother quietly, almost privately, smiling with pride as her only child stepped into his place on the stage of the world. Within hours, images and footage of that moment flooded every corner of the internet. Barron Trump became the hottest subject across social media, and yet the most fitting response wasn't a headline, a soundbite, or a media interview. It was silence. No press conference, no follow-up appearances. Barron simply retreated into the shadows, leaving the world stunned and restless. Was this an introduction or a farewell? For the first time, he had captured the full attention of the world. But this moment, the one that stunned the world, had been years in the making, shaped far away from the public eye. It began with a relentless, deliberate plan, Melania's unyielding shield. For years, the Trump family's power plays unfolded in plain view. Ivanka took the podium. Donald Jr. campaigned across the country. Eric dove deep into the family's business empire. But there was one name consistently absent from the glare of the spotlight: Barron Trump. And that was no accident. It was the product of a carefully engineered strategy, the vision of one woman, Melania Trump. She was not just Barron's mother, she was his fortress. From the day he was born in 2006, she kept him beyond the reach of flashing cameras, tabloid covers, and the theater of politics. Unlike his half-siblings, who entered the public stage early, Barron was raised within the sheltering walls of his family's protection. He was not homeschooled in the traditional sense. Instead, his education was deeply private, shaped by elite tutors chosen not only for their academic excellence, but for their discretion and trustworthiness. He had an entire floor of Trump Tower to himself. His world was insulated from the chaos of politics. While most political families use their children to soften their public image, Melania did the opposite. She drew a sharp, unbreakable line between her son and her husband's ambitions. According to reports, she repeatedly turned down opportunities for Barron to appear in public, even when such appearances could have polished Donald's image. To Melania, her son's life was never about building a brand, it was about building a man. Instead of teaching him how to perform for the cameras, she taught him discipline, diplomacy, and independence. Barron grew up fluent in Slovenian, studied French, practiced oratory, and immersed himself in world history, not political slogans. There was no grooming for office, no media training for interviews. When Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, Melania even delayed moving to the White House so Barron could finish his school year in New York. At first glance, it may have seemed like a simple scheduling decision, but symbolically, it was a declaration. Barron would not be pushed into a narrative that wasn't his own. Years later, in a Fox News interview, Melania distilled her parenting philosophy into a single sentence when asked about Barron's independence in his life at New York University. "I raised Barron to be independent, and I give him his own yes and no." Barron was never under pressure to follow the Trump playbook. There was no expectation for him to step into the spotlight or perform for the cameras. In a family where legacy is often seen as destiny, Melania made it clear her son would be the exception. Yet even the strongest walls can, over time, allow a little light to slip through. Subtle signs of Barron's evolution began to emerge. Brief, rare glimpses of him at public events revealed growing confidence, a more imposing stature, sharper eyes, and an undeniable presence that hinted at something greater. Occasionally, his name would quietly surface in political or tech circles, most often in connection with digital strategy. There are whispers, unconfirmed but persistent, that Barron played a quiet yet pivotal role in shaping the social media strategy that connected Donald Trump to younger voters during the 2004 presidential campaign. If true, it was no coincidence. Such work requires skill, trust, and years of preparation, a combination that invites a question few dare to ask. While Melania maintained her distance from the political fray, was she all along preparing her son to eventually face it? The silent transformation of Barron Trump. His appearance at the 2025 inauguration may have shocked the public, but the change had been years in the making, unfolding quietly behind closed doors, away from the glare of the media, nurtured in a modern, almost bespoke education unlike any of his siblings. While the outside world speculated whether he was shy, rebellious, or simply indifferent to fame, Barron was busy building himself on his own terms. From a young age, Barron revealed a fascination with technology. He spent hours designing software, exploring programming platforms, and immersing himself in the digital realm. While his siblings delivered speeches and managed business ventures, he was drawn more to algorithms than advertising campaigns. Insiders say that during his father's 2024 campaign, Barron became an unexpected force, quietly influencing online strategy, expanding digital reach, and fine-tuning the viral dynamics that resonated with a younger generation. He was not the face of the movement, but its behind-the-scenes strategist, exactly where he preferred to be. Beyond the world of technology, Barron stumbled upon another passion that lit up an entirely different side of him: music. It wasn't just a hobby, it became a lifeline. The drums, with their deep, resonant beats, were more than an instrument in his hands. They were a sanctuary, a safe space where he could shed the weight of expectations and simply be himself. Each rhythm was like a heartbeat, carrying unspoken thoughts and feelings that words could never quite capture. According to close sources, Melania didn't just tolerate this newfound love, she embraced it wholeheartedly. She saw music not as a distraction, but as a vital key to unlocking her son's emotional depth and sharpening his intellect. To her, the sound of Barron's drumming wasn't noise. It was the sound of him growing, healing, and building a part of himself that no spotlight could touch. While Donald Trump's public persona was forged in deals, rallies, and boardrooms, Barron's world pulsed to a different rhythm: the beat of drums, the logic of code, and the quiet confidence of creative independence. Even Silicon Valley began to take notice. Whispers suggest that Elon Musk once met with Barron, their conversations spanning topics from artificial intelligence to game design, and even the elusive nature of consciousness itself. No projects or partnerships were ever confirmed, yet the mere fact of their meeting ignited speculation. Was Barron being shaped to lead in a realm far removed from politics and the familiar theater of the media? When the time came for college, his choice spoke volumes. He enrolled at New York University's Stern School of Business, one of the nation's most respected programs, yet opted to live apart, steering clear of dorm life and the well-worn narrative of presidential children. Barron was quietly but unmistakably charting his own path. No longer just the youngest Trump, he was stepping into a life of his own design. The Secret Service still shadowed him at a careful distance, a silent reminder of the world he was born into. Yet day to day, his world was calm, methodical, and entirely self-governed. This wasn't merely a rite of passage into adulthood. It was a bold, unspoken manifesto of independence, one that needed no announcement to be understood. Even his style began to shift. Gone were the meticulously tailored suits and perfectly groomed hair of public appearances. On campus, he favored polo shirts, beige chinos, and hair left slightly tousled, as if shrugging off the polished image of a president's son in favor of a freer, more approachable persona. And yet, blending in was never truly an option. Standing at an estimated 6 feet 9 inches, about 2.06 meters, Barron towered above the crowd, a figure impossible to overlook, yet somehow never demanding attention. His presence was discreet, his social circle deliberately small, his interactions with classmates polite but measured. He didn't campaign, he didn't cultivate a network, he simply lived. And in a world where noise is so often mistaken for influence, his silence only made him more compelling. He had never given a single interview. Not once had he stepped in front of a microphone to lobby for a cause, nor had he ever voiced a political stance, publicly or privately. His world remained sealed, as if wrapped in a protective layer of silence. And yet, that very silence became a magnet for speculation. Whispers turned into rumors, rumors into theories, each more elaborate than the last. The curiosity reached a fever pitch when the two people who knew him better than anyone else, Donald Trump and Melania Trump, finally decided it was time to break their own silence. For most of Barron's life, his parents had kept their thoughts about him closely guarded. Part of his mystique came from the fact that no one ever spoke on his behalf. He was observed but rarely discussed. But in the months following Donald Trump's 2025 inauguration and Barron's understated yet powerful public debut, everything shifted. For the first time, both Donald and Melania spoke openly, and their words revealed more than they might have intended. Melania, famously private, especially regarding her only child, stunned readers in her 2024 memoir of the same name by writing candidly about Barron. She described him as possessing a rare blend of intelligence, charm, and diligence, praising his ability to hold fast to his character and values even as the family endured political storms and deeply personal attacks. It was more than a mother's pride. It was a quiet declaration that her son had walked through the storm with his integrity intact. In a Fox News interview following the release of her memoir, Melania expanded on her parenting philosophy. Speaking of Barron's decision to attend New York University and live independently, she simply said, "That was his choice and I respect it." Her tone carried both pride and the restrained grace of someone who had mastered the art of letting go. And then came a sentence that caught viewers off guard. Asked how she felt as a homeless person, now that Barron had moved out, she paused, then answered, "I cannot say I am a homeless person." The response was cryptic, open to interpretation. Was she hinting that Barron still kept close ties with her? Or was she acknowledging the bittersweet transformation of their bond? Watching the boy she once shielded step fully into his own life, beyond the reach of her constant protection? Donald Trump, never one for subtlety, offered his own take, equal parts humorous and unexpectedly poignant, on the son the world was just beginning to notice. In a candid moment with Laura Ingraham, he recalled a story that left him both laughing and amazed. "I shut down my son's laptop, and 5 minutes later, it was back on. My son had figured it out." "Unbelievable," Trump said with a wide grin. He went on to speak with genuine admiration about Barron's almost uncanny gift for technology, a natural fluency in the digital world that most seasoned politicians could only dream of. He praised his son's deep understanding of how to reach younger voters online, a skill that has quietly but powerfully influenced the campaign's entire digital presence. And then, in a moment of rare openness, he acknowledged Barron's behind-the-scenes role in shaping this presence. For a man who so often keeps the spotlight glued firmly to himself, this was not just unexpected. It was deeply revealing. But this was more than mere praise. It was recognition, perhaps even the first flicker of passing the torch to the next generation. And yet, both Donald and Melania were deliberate in how they framed Barron. As his own man, independent, neither a carbon copy of his father nor simply the product of his mother's values. Their words carried no trace of political grooming, no calculated hint of dynastic ambition, only the acknowledgement of a young man coming into his own. Instead, their words felt like careful nods to a young man who might never walk the same path as either his father or his mother. Beneath that restraint, the emotion was unmistakable, pride tempered by distance. Barron had emerged, but not in their image. And now, his next move could upend everything we thought we knew about the Trump dynasty, the future of a silent Trump. In a family built on headlines, controversy, and the relentless churn of media soundbites, Barron Trump is a startling departure. He is defined not by what he says, but by what he does not say. His silence is not weakness. It has become his calling card. A quiet signature that provokes a question once thought unthinkable. Could Barron be the one to redefine the Trump legacy? At 19, he carries no scandals, no lawsuits, no bankruptcies, no trail of social media outrage. Politically, that makes him a rare commodity, a blank page. He bears the weight of the Trump name without the stains of its controversies. To strategists and image makers, he is an untouched canvas, someone whose public identity could be shaped in any direction without having to answer for the missteps of the past. In politics, that is powerful leverage. What makes him even more unusual is that he seems utterly uninterested in using it. He stays away from the spotlight, shuns grand events, and avoids the spectacle of public performance. While his father is consumed with dominating every space he enters, Barron operates quietly, in the shadows. While Barron's siblings have taken to podiums and campaign trails, he has chosen classrooms, programming projects, and music over microphones and political rallies. Yet, paradoxically, his influence has only grown, perhaps precisely because of that choice. Some insiders now call him the post-Trump Trump, not because he is preparing for a political run, but because he embodies a different kind of power. Calculated, detached, and quietly strategic, Barron needs no stage to shape a conversation, no press release to leave an impression. His influence comes from being a Trump no one can fully pin down. And in today's media-saturated world, that mystery is magnetic. Even seasoned reporters admit they have never seen anything quite like it. Major news outlets track his rare appearances on campus, noting subtle shifts in style and speculating about his private life, all without him ever sitting down for an interview. He has never spoken publicly on politics, policy, or economics. His social media presence is virtually non-existent. And yet, every time he enters a room, Barron becomes the center of gravity. In an era where attention is often bought with noise, his ability to command it through restraint is both rare and powerful. Of course, there's another possibility. Perhaps his silence is not a calculated move at all. Perhaps he wants nothing to do with legacy, spotlight, or responsibility. Perhaps he's simply a 19-year-old living a private life like any other young man, except his last name will never let him disappear. And then there's the matter of influence from the shadows. His absence from the spotlight does not mean absence from shaping outcomes. Both Donald and Melania have spoken about his intellect in depth. His quiet role in shaping the 2024 campaign's digital strategy shows he already knows how to wield influence. Without a title, without a position, and without courting public attention. So where does that lead him? Will Barron Trump be the one to usher the family name into a new era? Sleeker, more digital, more strategic? Or is he quietly stepping away, building a legacy entirely outside politics? The answer may not lie in what he says, but in what he chooses not to say. Barron Trump may have stepped into the light with a single, unexpected gesture, but what comes next could be far more powerful. A silent shift within one of America's most polarizing dynasties. Will he be the next chapter in the Trump story or the final punctuation mark? Will he shape the future of political influence or vanish entirely into a life of his own? And if this story has stirred something in you, if you felt the pride, the power, and the unspoken bond in that rare moment, don't let it end here. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next chapter in the unfolding saga of the Trump family. Share this video with your friends because some moments are too powerful to be forgotten.